Week 4, Game 5 coming up on Friday night across Western Pennsylvania and across the rest of the WPIAL and PIAA. Football season will reach its midway point in just 48 hours. We're going beyond the scoreboard here on the Lawrence County SportsNet, powered by LCAP. I'm James Dotson with Eric Thomas along for the ride yet again. Glad to have Eric back in our LCAP studios as there's plenty to look at, both looking back to last week, the opening of conference play, Eric, but also looking ahead. We'll get into the future for now, but just in general, what are the main takeaways you had from the games on Thursday and Friday and Saturday from a week ago?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to what some of these teams have coming up in the future, because a lot of schedules were front-loaded with easier opponents. Now we find out how some of these teams are going to be the rest of the way. It starts this week. Newcastle gets maybe one extra week to get ready, so to speak, for the toughest stretch of their schedule. But really, it's now about the back end of these schedules, especially in 1A, the 1A teams in the Big Seven, because all those teams are going to play each other now coming up over the next 5 weeks. And there's some teams that maybe haven't done as well as we thought they would do early on, at least in my case, that also have an easier ride at the end of their schedule. So we'll see how these all shake out. But it really is now kind of a tale of two seasons. It was either really kind of easy, or you had your easier portion, so to speak, and we'll talk about some of these numbers here in a little bit. But, or the back end is just ridiculous, and now we're going to get some really good football here. Now, these teams are going to weed each other out. They're going to eliminate each other. They're going to compete with one another. And then we're going to start seeing a few of them separate from the pack, and that's all going to happen here in the next month and a week.
Yeah, and I think the biggest storyline, we'll talk a little bit more about it too, is that you do have some teams, Newcastle and Laurel specifically, and Wilmington up in D10, still looking to play their first conference game. So they still have more time, as you kind of alluded to get ready before the crux of their season. So let's go take a look back at last week's games, and we'll start with the defensive struggle, but it was a really entertaining defensive struggle. A 9-7 game, in high school or any level of football, you're thinking, all right, that was a boring game. It really wasn't, Eric. It was really Union's bend, don't break defense. They bent just enough on the final drive. It was 1 yard further. I don't think that field goal goes in. A 38-yarder from Gage Saffron was the game winner.
Yeah, and they kept coming up with stop after stop throughout the whole game. Their offense was needs to be a little more diversified, I think, for them to have to really scare some teams down the stretch. But defensively, they were in that game. We said it leading up to the game. If they could compete for 40 minutes or 42 minutes, that was going to go a long way to telling the tale for the rest of this team the rest of the season. I was very impressed with them. I thought they were gritty. I thought they were tough. Not surprised they wore down, because those guys are all going two ways. Not surprised their offense is what it is, because they're still trying to figure out the quarterback position and get some of these younger guys developed. Monte Booker is going to be a really good player. He's just got to hang on to the ball when he's in certain situations. We knew Gianni Million was going to run the football. He was effective in that game. They couldn't move the ball when they had to at the end, and they couldn't get the stop when they had to at the end. That's what happens when you got a small roster. I mean, it's as simple as that. A lot of young guys in that Union team, but they I think have a lot to look forward to. That team really impressed me with how tough they played that game.
Right. I mean, the other team in Riverside had twice as many plays just about and over twice as many yards, but I would still be willing to argue that Union played the better game overall. Just you kind of said it, Eric. They couldn't quite get the big play when they needed to. The turnovers early certainly helped. I mean, the short field, getting that early touchdown for Riverside absolutely killed them, because you take away that, the what was that, 25-yard screen pass touchdown in the first possession, they're leading the entire game in that regard. So it's little things like that. But for such a young team to do what they did, I'm impressed.
I was too, and I think that I think they just have to really diversify their offense a little bit and try to get the most they can out of Jordan Kelly. I sort of walked out of that game thinking to myself that he looks a little bit out of position, and that they really need to try to get somebody else into that role. It's a little too late to say that now, probably, because we're they're going to be halfway through the season here after play on Friday night. But they've just got to find somebody who can be consistent at that quarterback spot and feed the ball to these guys like Monte Booker, and get Gianni Million be another threat to run the football with him. I'd like to see him do a little bit more in the passing game with Monte Booker and sort of work him in. I'm sure that's going to happen. They're trying to be cautious with some of these younger players, because they don't really want them to get a big head. They don't want them to read their own clippings. But I think that they have got to come up with some type of diversity offensively to really start scaring teams. And it's going to get a lot harder for them coming up here now because they got Western Beaver, and that Western Beaver team is insanely good defensively. They really don't even miss Javian Peel. We'll talk more about him in the preview segment coming up. Western Beaver's ranked number 7 this week in the state of Pennsylvania, but they've only allowed 41 points all year long. So you start looking at what Union does offensively, and you're going to wonder, well, how can they score to win games? Well, they're going to score by running the football. They're going to score by ball control. They're going to score by keeping their offense on the field, on the ground. And if that's how they have to do it, that's how they have to do it. But I just think that they need a little bit more, at least a threat of throwing the football in a game. And if they can get anything like that out of Jordan Kelly going forward, they're going to win some games at the end of the season. I don't think there's any question about that. I don't know if they win Friday night, but I think they're going to win some games down the stretch.
Yeah, they're a textbook definition of a team that has a front-loaded schedule, a lot of winnable games down the stretch. And you're right, a threat of passing the ball, I think they definitely showed that. And I think a little more comfort from Jordan as well there in the second half of that game. That was, again, a rare Thursday night game, a lot of fun. We had 2 games on Friday night. We'll start with the other game in the MAC, Elwood City traveling to Mohawk. And how huge is it for that Elwood City team? A week ago, they lose on a touchdown pass with, 13 seconds left to go. Completely flip the script on 4th and 14. They get a 41-yard game-winning touchdown. Tyler Amicone, first catch of the year. Well, first catch of the game, first catch of the year, first catch of his career, and it goes for a game-winning touchdown to get yourself the first win in conference play. Gotta love it for that kid. Gotta love it for that Elwood City team.
Yeah, they're playing really well. And, a lot of people looked last year at their offense and said, well, they got all this experience and they got this really good running back, but their defense was really their backbone, I think, last year, and a big reason why they went 10-0 and had a chance at least to win their playoff game and at least get to another round. Their defense is starting to round into shape now this season too, and that's a really important thing going forward. When you have to fill those pieces in, it's not unusual to rely on one side of the ball over the other. And in their case, I think it's easier. It's easier for any team, really. If you have a strong defense, it's easier for you to kind of get those other guys involved or bring your offense along a little slower when you can rely on your defense. Hey, they got stops when they needed to last week. They really shut down Bobby Fadden in that game. Fadden, again, was under 6. I think he was right around 60-something for a quarterback rating, just over 50% completion. So the secondary played well. They're piecing their offense together. They're getting what they need out of their offense when they need it to win games. But their defense is really what's coming to the forefront right now, and that's going to help them out later on in the season.
Yeah, they got a scoop and score in the first drive of the game and got an interception just shy of the goal line on the Hail Mary at the end of the game. So those are the 2 turnovers. But, bend don't break didn't work for Union in the end, but it was just enough for Elwood City. But the game winner, let's take a listen to Lee and Jay Moan on the call. The game-winning 41-yard touchdown pass with just under 10 seconds to go.
Snap. Got time. Gonna throw. Defensive man wide open. Touchdown! I can't believe it. Tyler Amicone with 9 seconds left.
We thought the celebration after Shenango beat Mohawk was intense. This one even more incredible. And again, I think just even more telling because going into that last drive, Elwood City had 70 yards of offense, Eric. And then they march 65 yards down the field to be able to get that game-winning touchdown. Absolutely incredible.
And Mohawk's 2 biggest things right now, the offense obviously is not in sync without Cash Stratton, and their defense is
definitely took a step up. I will say that. Lucas Stratton had a great game.
Yeah, he did, and he became a 20-carry guy in that game, so that's a good sign for them going forward. Do we still even know what's going on with Cash Stratton? Are we expecting him to play again this season?
Doubtful. That's the word we're getting.
That's a bigger loss for them defensively than it is on offense, because if you can bring a guy along and tell him, hey, just run straight ahead for 20 times tonight, and you have a guy in your backfield and Fadden who can make it easier on you, but their defense is just missing pieces right and left, and some of it's by attrition, some of it's by graduation. I mean, it happens, and they just have not had the guys to step in and replace it. And the secondary not as sharp as it was last year. Linebacking core, they lost Sam List. Not as sharp as it was a year ago. The edge rushing, putting pressure on the quarterback. I mean, last year Jackson Chapman was causing havoc all season long. Joey Nails had a good season so far, but you can tell that Fadden isn't quite. He's maybe looking for Blake Logan this season a little, and doesn't have kind of that crutch that was really good for him last year. Look, they played better for sure on Friday. They definitely played better than what they have, and they've got a really winnable stretch coming up on their schedule too. This is one of the teams that front-loaded their schedule. Now the back end outside of Western Beaver is pretty winnable for them. They can still win 6 games. They can still get in the playoffs.
Would still probably host a playoff game at that point, too.
Probably still host a playoff game. You're going to have a full season of Lucas Stratton more or less being your number 1 ball carrier at that point, so that's going to help. They got to find some defense. I mean, they've got to build upon what they did on Friday and just keep getting better and better as the season goes on. I'm a little surprised that they are in the position that they're in now. I'm not surprised that their team has been a little slow to get with it all season long. Some of these games, like when they came out and beat Neshannock week 1, it's like, okay, well, this team is what we thought it was going to be, and 100% guilty of reading too much into one game. I mean, that's definitely, on my end, certainly for me. Build upon that defense, get that thing revved up, win these 3 games that you can, get back to 500, figure out the other 2, and then get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it also goes to show you just how much one player can end up meaning on both sides of the football, especially in 1A and 2A football. But I will say this, staying positive, and that's all I've heard coming out of Mohawk camp since. I mean, you could be completely devastated first after losing your star running back, losing the heart of your defense. Again, a junior captain, you don't see that very often in high school, and he's one of them. But the team staying with it, staying positive throughout the whole thing, and even after you give up a wide open touchdown in the last play of the game, everybody could be pointing fingers or could be just completely down of like, we just completely lost it. All is positive in Warrior Country right now is what I keep hearing, because there were a lot of good things that happened. Just one play in the end destroyed them.
They're around these guys all day too. So the coaches, Tim McCutcheon, he knows better than any of us do what this team mentality is. And he remembers what he went through last year when he questioned the leadership of this team and thought that, they were going to have some struggles last year. And he's got to go back to that a little bit. He's got to get these guys to dig down a little bit deeper. And maybe he is seeing that in practice. Maybe he is seeing that this team is ready to break out. Again, he's around them all day. We don't go to practice. We talk to these guys for, 5-10 minutes before a game to kind of get a lay of the land. And we rely on our own knowledge of who these guys are and what these teams do. But, he's around them every day. So if they're comfortable and they feel like they're in a good position, then more power to them. I mean, I still think they can get in the playoffs. I still think they can make noise. I'm still not completely enamored with 2A right now. So everything to me is still in front of them if they want it.
Talk about making a good first impression. How about Shenango now 2 weeks in a row putting up monster numbers, 400 plus yards on the ground, and 450 total in the game. People getting back to their natural positions, a big key. How about Nico DeSalvo? 4 touchdowns in the game. Here's his 4th early in the second half.
McConnell takes the snap. They'll hand it off. It is DeSalvo, and he goes right up the gut into the end zone. 14-yard run by DeSalvo.
And a big day for him. 183 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. Didn't have to throw it much, did Caleb McConnell. I mean, talk about a young quarterback's best friend. But, they did what they needed to do and what they were expected to do against a Northgate team that's been giving up a lot of points. 56-20, it was done right off the bat, but a couple of big splash plays. Trey Ross, a kick return touchdown in the game. I was most impressed, though, of DeSalvo accepting his role back as running back and taking it with a grain of salt. He was running people over most of the night.
Yeah, he ran with some purpose in the first half. And what really impressed me about them is at the end of the first half, when this game was starting to really spiral out of control, and you kind of kept waiting for Shenango to throw the football and let this kid, let it rip or see more of him. And instead, they get a big safety at the end of the half. They get another touchdown before the half as well. And it was like that bang, bang right there. Just that wasn't there week 1 and week 2. DeSalvo looked much more comfortable than what he's been. He's been running the ball really well. The biggest question for the Shenango team going forward, they're one of the teams that have a really tough schedule on the back end. So let's see what happens. Let's see if they can stay in the competition here. Southside's going to be a good barometer for them this weekend. Still have Neshannock coming up in 2 weeks. Still have Laurel coming up in 3 weeks. Oh, by the way, 4 Cherries on the schedule too. So we're going to get a really good litmus test there at the end of the year. that's a rough schedule for them. But you love seeing that they have some momentum right now. That was not only just well deserved, but well earned by that team.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just hope they can keep that momentum going. Now you got the big road test. We'll talk about the game down in Hookstown on Friday night. The game we had on Saturday night, though, a non-conference game in Class 1A between Laurel and Bishop Canevin down at Dormont Stadium. Laurel falling in that game to Bishop Canevin, 46-28. First, the news: Bishop Canevin did have their quarterback behind center for the first true official time, I guess, on the year. He is not going to be playoff eligible, but he certainly played a big role in the game. The big key to this was, it's that first four thing. At the end of the first half, the last 4 minutes, and then the first 4 minutes of the third quarter, it was all Canevin. I think they scored 4 straight touchdowns. That's the difference in the game.
Yeah, and didn't let Laurel's defense dictate what they were doing. They got no pressure on the quarterback. They couldn't move the ball offensively.
Especially on the ground, Laurel couldn't.
Really, nothing on the ground in that game, and they really rattled Lucas Santini in that game. Colton Carlson had a handful of touches and had a slight impact. I mean, they gave up, 26 points in the first half. So, I mean, that was a telltale sign for the night. I thought it was going to be a little bit closer. I thought Laurel's defense was going to be able to hang in there. And, I'll say it. I think that there is some separation between the upper echelon of 1A and the Big Seven. I think the Big Seven still has 3 really, really good teams in it that will compete for a district championship, a WPIAL championship. I think one of them is still probably out of that mix going to get to a semifinal somehow, depending on draw. But they're just, you don't want to sense too much separation between like Laurel and that top tier of 1A, but there's definitely some separation between the Claretons, the Canevins, and the Fort Cherries and everybody else. I don't think there's any argument there. Laurel's defense this is a get right week for them. I mean, come back, rack your stats up. I mean, they had 1 tackle for loss and no sacks in that game. Mm-hmm. This is a team that had 18 tackles for loss in the 2 previous games, and they had 1 against Bishop Canevin. You're not winning many games if you can't pressure the quarterback. You're not winning many games if you don't get penetration in the backfield, especially when you have that defense that's looked so good for now, really the last 2 years, but awesome the first couple games of the season. They're going to have to get back at it, and this is definitely a get right week for them.
Yeah, a couple of the bright sides for sure. The first one being Lucas Santini, touchdown pass. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns. Using his legs. I like to see a little more of that from Luca as necessary, especially when your weapons, like Nathan Hill and Colton Carlson on the ground, aren't able to get it as much done just as the flow of the game goes. But I think the other thing too is not giving up late in the game. Just take a listen to this, the play of the game from our call on Saturday night. Big shout out to the Hall of Famer Don Rebel, helping us do the game with Trib Live. But, down big, could have just folded early in the fourth quarter. They get a touchdown, and then this happens.
Punt, quarterback, wide receiver, linebacker. Punt is blocked. Blocked, picked up, touchdown, Laurel. It was blocked by Tyler Fuchs. Picked up by Tyler Fuchs, and it's touchdown Sparty, courtesy of Tyler Fuchs.
And that was with about 10.5 minutes left, cut the lead down to, at that point, it was down to an 11-point game, still plenty of time left. Now, they weren't able to make the full comeback, but, again, players going and making plays, never giving up no matter, non-conference game, okay. We're down by 3 or 4 scores, okay. Still going and playing hard out there, and that's a 2-way starter also on special teams going and making a play.
Yeah, and you'd like to see that. They're going to have to maybe run into this team again somewhere down the stretch. The secondary will need to buckle it up a little bit too later on if they meet them again. But I really thought that the way that they kind of they played the whole 48 minutes. That's all you can ask from at that point. You still got to get some value out of it. A good coach who runs a good program will make you play the full 48 minutes regardless of what the score is. So had the roles been reversed and they've been blowing Canevin out, I would have expected them to not take their foot off the gas, continue to play the whole 48 minutes. All right, you're down. Get something out of it. Put something on film. Use something you can go back to later in the year and maybe adapt from it or expand it, something. Get some value out of the time, and that's exactly what they were able to do in that game. I think they saw some things that they'll keep trying to implement later in the season. Nothing to worry about. I mean, there's still a long way to go. They're still going to play their best football. They're going to have to play their best football coming up. But no, I wouldn't be too concerned about that Laurel team. Not after that. Canevin's really good. We know that. The top 3 again in single A are really good. Somebody's going to knock somebody else off. Probably somebody's going to have to go through both of those teams, I would think, somewhere, because two of them are probably going to be on the same side of the bracket. Who knows what's going to happen, but it's going to be a wild tournament. But they are what they are, and Laurel said we're going to get something out of this for a full 48 minutes, and they were able to do that.
Yeah, and definitely got that's the first full 48 minutes they really had to play so far this season. The other two games that were on Friday night, both shutout wins for our county teams. Wilmington traveling down to Berlin Brothers Valley, a 35-0 victory there. And I believe Berlin only had maybe 40 yards of offense in that game. That's about 50 more yards than what York had against Newcastle. They were negative total yards at the end of the game, a 53-0 win for the Canes at home in that one. The mercy rule in the second half, they actually had only 8-minute quarters in the third and fourth quarter. A bad injury early in the game as well for one of the York Cougars that were hoping for a quick and full recovery for that young man. But both these teams took care of business. Wilmington, especially on the road, again, another impressive road victory. They didn't even attempt to pass in that game, Eric. Everything on the ground for the Hounds.
Yeah, and I think they've got something absurd, like 192 plays and 186 are on the ground this season for Wilmington. So,
sounds about right.
Yeah, if they could run the ball 100 times a game, they would totally do it. Not stunned by their impressive performance again. Their defense is suffocating. They're keeping the ball. They've got time of possession, just eating up the clock with this running game. And they missed a beat. They missed a beat since these injuries, and they're continuing to grind it out. They've got the big one with Farrell coming up in a couple weeks, so we'll keep our ears to the ground on that one. And Newcastle, I added these numbers up yesterday, actually. Number one defense of all the teams in Lawrence County, Newcastle right now. Now,
wow.
Some of that's a byproduct of who they've played, but they also have the Hopewell game mixed in there too. So that tells you how good that they've been, and they're only allowing 81 yards rushing a game. So if you're going to do that and only 140 total, and the majority of that was against Hopewell. So,
and what did that Hopewell quarterback just do on Friday? 600 total yards himself.
So, I mean, some people think he's as good as Terrell Pryor, if not better. I think it's a little early for that, but we'll see what he does here the next couple of years. But Newcastle's defense, and they run the ball too. They started running the ball very effectively. I think they had 208 yards in the game on Friday night, or they're averaging 208 yards on the ground now. And the freshman quarterback, Marino Graham, best friend running game. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. Your new quarterback, you break into a new role, your best friend's the running game. They're able to do that now. I'm pretty sure they're going to tap back into him throwing the football, though, because we know he's got the weapons to get the ball, too. But if they can keep running the football, I mean, why go away from that? Their defense and running game, that's what the Hurricanes are right now, and they've done a nice job here this first month.
You put 53 points on the board. They only ran 17 offensive plays in the game. I mean, that's the byproduct of Kai Cox had 2 interceptions. One was returned for a touchdown and called back on a penalty. He had 3 punt return touchdowns. One of them was called back on a penalty.
Ready.
So, there you go.
The same on Friday night. Get ready.
Yeah, Knock, unfortunately. They've looked better the last couple of weeks, but I would say they're a step up from York. But, yeah, you're going to have a complete turnaround after York and Knock going to Aliquippa there for the first round of the Parkway here in a couple of weeks. Real quick on Wilmington, I just want to mention, too, another week, another 100-yard performance with a touchdown for Chase Mitchelltree. He's the leading rusher in the county. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, and just a year older, and with that offensive line back, and Wesley Vasquez back at quarterback, and a lot of these pieces that were there a season ago, and they don't miss a beat. I mean, it's a special program. I'm still riding them all the way to Cumberland Valley if I can. I think that they're gonna be in the mix for that state title, at least make the state semifinal round. Their defense has been really good though too. I mean, they played really well against Hubbard. I know Hubbard had moved the ball against them, but if that's their litmus test so far, their defense has been outstanding. So nothing to Berlin. Running game the week before with Northern Bedford, they pounded the crap out of them and limited them to nothing, and they hung in there with Hubbard. So I don't know what more you can ask out of this team. They're playing some really good football right now.
3 first-half touchdowns officially, by the way, for Mitchelltree last week, and Rowan Miller also rotating in between him and Vasquez. You see them both behind center. He had another long rushing touchdown as well, just another weapon to be able to throw out there for Coach Fillion and the Hounds. There's a look back at the 4th week of the season. We're going to take a quick time out, and we'll talk about some of the news and notes across the state. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Beyond the Scoreboard, Lawrence County SportsNet podcast here at allcsportsnet.com, powered by LCAP. For 20 years, Melee Chiropractic has treated athletes of all ages to help them get safely back to the top of their game. Melee Chiropractic has 3 full-time doctors in their office, and all 3 are former area athletes who have had to battle injuries throughout their careers. They want to help you get safely back on your feet. But more importantly, help stop the injuries before they happen. Prehab before you rehab. Attention all high school student athletes. During your sports season, a $30 visit to the Melee Chiropractic office includes an adjustment and/or all therapy is necessary. From the athletes of tomorrow to the weekend warriors and everything in between. Let Melee Chiropractic keep you in the game. Castle Asphalt and Construction is driven to provide quality, cost-efficient pavement-related services to Western Pennsylvania. Every paving or construction service at Castle Asphalt begins with a thorough site inspection of the area to allow their team of professionals to become familiar with the unique conditions of your home or business. Once the site inspection is complete, Castle Asphalt provides you with a detailed plan of the design, cost, materials, and time of completion, so you know exactly what to expect during your construction. Visit castleasphalt.com to request a quote for your next project and make your dream design come to fruition.
I love what I do because coming in every day is different.
How can you not enjoy these kids coming up and hugging you and giving you these great smiles all throughout the day?
Seeing the progress that our kids make every single day is one of the reasons I love coming to school.
What should we do? We have fun.
LCAP Early Learning Centers is hiring. Help empower young minds in Lawrence County and become a superhero today. Apply at lcap.org.
Quickest 10 weeks of the entire year. That's the high school regular season. Yes, we're already to the midway point after our games coming up on Friday night. Eric Thomas, James Dotson here for the fun. Beyond the Scoreboard here at lcsportsnet.com, powered by LCAP. We went through all the games from last week. We missed one, kind of. Neshannock-Rochester. The official word is it is still a postponed game. It is not canceled. It is not a forfeit yet. The way it's been explained, to us at least, is that the game can still potentially be made up over the course of the year. If it does not get made up, then it will go down as a Rochester forfeit. I guess my thoughts, and Eric, you can tell me I'm wrong or give me a different opinion here. I don't think this game gets played unless Rochester needs one more win on their record to potentially be playoff eligible. I just don't think the game is going to be played. If it does get played, the only way you could do it is, on a Monday or Tuesday, and maybe have a game moved to a Saturday to try to space it out?
The easiest thing you could probably do, and I think that, what will they do if a conference championship needs to happen? So if they can't play it, then Neshannock gets the win. So technically they could still win the conference if they get the forfeit win. So, we could be looking at a forfeit that decides who the Big 7 champ is. I know that might not mean a big deal, as far as long term, but teams still want to win their conference.
Right.
That's a big deal to me. But the only way they could really do this is if you push, you'd have to play a game on Thursday. You'd have to play that game on a Wednesday and then come back on Saturday to play the game that you should have played that Friday then.
Yeah.
That's the only way, to me, you could do it. You're going to have a short week anyway somewhere, but if you played on Thursday, you'd have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, so you have 5 days in between, which would give a team basically the same amount of time between. I'm trying to figure out a way you maximize the time between the game that you have scheduled and the makeup game, and then the game after that, depending on who it is. So what if you play it on a Saturday? If you go Thursday, Friday, 2 games, 2 days, I guess you could theoretically play it Sunday. I don't know if they want to do that.
I wouldn't want to. And here's the other thing, too. Those last couple of games of the year are the games against Southside. Then there's a game in between, and then Laurel to end the year. You're telling me that
you
again,
can't put them through that.
No, you can't. You can't, especially leading up to what is potentially you could see as being another Laurel and Neshannock both undefeated in the conference going into the final game of the year. You can't. You just can't do that. So I'm extremely doubtful that we will see this game get played, which is unfortunate, but also it's just unfortunate the situation that Rochester is in with all the injuries. And, man, I mean, such a historic program, 25 years with Gene Matzook at the helm, and his first year gone. And, you know, they knew the numbers were going to be rough just because the student population is very low right now, but
no, they were rough last year, though, too.
They were, but they still had 20-some people on the roster, not 16 or 17.
And hung around that game with Shannock early in that game until the injury happened, and then things kind of went south. I think it was only 21-0 that game.
That was the final. It was 21-0.
So, you know, they still had pieces there last year. I just don't see any logical way. And, you know, if this was the beginning of the season and you figured out a way you could schedule it, you know, for a Thursday, like adjust the schedule early in the year, you can't possibly consider pushing the 3 or the 2 biggest games for Neshannock, like scrunch them into like an 8-day window. You can't do that to them. I mean, I'm sorry. I know, you know, that's our team and we cover them, but it's a complete disservice to not just Neshannock, it's a disservice to their opponent too, because what it reminded me of was a couple years ago, the COVID year in 2020. There were a couple issues across the state, and one of them was the Mid-Penn deciding that they were going to start and only play conference games the middle of September. And one of the schools in the mix, Harrisburg, their school district, who is controlled by the state of Pennsylvania, which is a horrible mistake because they have no idea what the hell they're doing. They have not known what the hell they're doing. They just said, we're not going to play. Mm-hmm. They said, we're not playing football this year. Well, they lobbied and lobbied. The mayor didn't want to help them. He's gone, thank God, because he was worthless too. But they had to scramble to get a game in to qualify for district playoffs. And the last game of the year was against State College. And they played a game on, I believe, Friday night. I don't remember who it was against. Harrisburg played Friday night. They traveled up to State College and played Monday afternoon against State High. Now, a lot of people were questioning how this was going to go, and like, you know, was State High just going to throw JV kids out there? Well, apparently there's a rule somewhere in the book that says in order for a game to be considered a varsity contest, the varsity players have to play, the starters have to play a minimum series, I think. I believe it has to be like 2 series, like on each side of the ball or something like that, which none of us even knew that thing existed until 2020. But to State High's credit, they said, we're going to play a half. We have a short week too. You know, we have to come back and play you on Monday. So they played their starters at half. They pulled them for rest. Harrisburg won the game. They qualified for districts. They got the number 1 seed in districts, as a matter of fact, because of that win. And then ultimately on Tuesday, a kid test positive for COVID and their season was done. But it can be done. I don't want to put a team through it. And it's not fair to either side to cheapen the game by having somebody come in. What if Neshannock plays 2 of those games, they lose, God forbid, Gino Mazzocco and Anthony Eakin, and then they go to Laurel and they don't have those guys? Well, how fair is that?
Right. No, and I mean, yes, it can happen anytime. It could happen at a practice. I get all that.
But you're not doing 3 games in like 8 or 9 days to make it feasible.
We're not going to go Bishop Sycamore on here. Yeah. It's not the way it should be. Rochester does have a non-conference game on October the 10th. That same weekend is when Neshannock hosts Southside. So that doesn't work out. I mean, naturally, you wouldn't see that. Now, the week after that, Neshannock is at Summit on Saturday. So maybe you could say, could you squeeze in there because you already have the extra day to a Saturday? Yeah.
You'd have to play it like on a Wednesday, I think, though. Like the makeup game would have to be a Wednesday to allow the max amount of time between your Friday game. Maybe you could make that game a Thursday if both teams would agree to it.
If you go Tuesday, then you would have, after your Friday game, you'd have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, play Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, play Saturday.
Yeah, that would be an even amount.
That's the only possible way you can squeeze one in. I hope we don't have to talk about that in a few weeks.
Game should just be a forfeit. It should just be a forfeit, and that's it. Simple as that.
Let's talk about some of the other teams across the state that have been making some noise there, Eric. I know you always keep tabs on the top 5 and the top 10 in certain classifications. Hopewell, we talked about them earlier in terms of the WPIL, certainly making some noise, even though with a loss last week, 51-50. They went for 2 with under a minute. I think it was just 10 seconds left, and were denied on that. Otherwise, we could be talking about a battle for first place between them and Avonworth this week. But who are some of the teams that you're seeing both in the district and beyond that are really making some noise right now?
Well, I mean, if you look across the state, 6A, obviously, St. Joe's Prep probably is going to be 0-4 after this week. I don't know that they're going to win a non-conference game this season. They have Our Lady of Good Counsel out of Maryland, so it's possible. They may get this game. But then their schedule gets really interesting after that because they've got to go to Father Judge. Then they play LaSalle, Roman Catholic, and Bonner Prendy all back to back to back. So that's a really tough stretch. Now, 6A down there, the only competition they're going to have for the Catholic League in 6A is going to be LaSalle, who beat them last year in the regular season anyway. And then St. Joe's Prep came back and smacked them in the Catholic League championship. And then probably Imhotep for the District 12 title. So they may be looking at a 4-loss situation here and still be one of the top teams. I mean, they're still ranked in the top 3 in the state, as they should be. LaSalle's now number 1. They beat Calvert Hall. Harrisburg's toughest part of their schedule is done. So they probably will get through undefeated. They've already beaten State College in an insane game. Last week they won up there in double overtime. They've already beaten Bishop McDevitt, and they already played Imhotep. So, I mean, their schedule is done as far as they've got Carlisle, who's terrible, Altoona, who's terrible. Central Dauphin is not good anymore. Central Dauphin East is like okay. And Chambersburg, they're winning all those games.
It's basically 6 weeks of stay healthy, guys.
Exactly, pretty much. Stay eligible, stay healthy. 5A, I mean, Roman Catholic is still number 1. They got crushed by DeMatha last week. Pine Richland got the big news this week about Khalil Taylor. He's eligible for the postseason now, so that's a big boost for them. And, Peters is still undefeated. McDevitt's hanging around at 2-2, and Strathaven out of District 1's 4-0. They're pretty good. Bonner didn't play last week in 4A. Southern Lehigh is still hanging around too. I don't know how this team is doing it as at 4-0. I mean, they have just been in the mix the whole way since the preseason. So kudos to those guys for catching up. And then you drop down to 3A. Northwestern Lehigh, I don't know how they're doing it either because they just went to 2 state title games and like everybody's gone and they're still 4-0. So they're the number 1 team in the state right now behind or just ahead of Avonworth. So they may be headed for a showdown again in the state finals. That was a great win by Northwestern Lehigh last year in the state championship game. I still like North Catholic. I don't know that there's much else there. Amani Christian, I mean, every year we talk about them.
Yeah,
and every year they don't win the WPIL. So
I give them great credit for continuing to play up. I want to see them get one of those big wins in the playoffs here in Class 3A.
And then you look at AA, and AA gets really interesting. Schuylkill Haven's actually the number 1 team in the state right now. They beat Mahanoy area last week 69-0. Troy, who was in the state final last year, they are back. They are number 2. Southern Columbia is hanging around at 3-1, but they're in the lower portion of the top 10. Richland, I feel like, has been hanging in the top 10 forever, but they lost last Thursday to Bishop McCourt. And Steel High, 3-0. I mean, everybody up here is familiar with that team. They beat Union a couple years ago. And then 1A, it's Fort Cherry, Clareton, Bishop Guilfoyle, Wilmington, Port Allegheny. I mean, throw a dart. Yep. It's any one of those teams the rest of the way. Laurel was ranked in the top 10. They're out of it this week. They're still top 4, according to Chris Harlan in the Trib in Class Single A as far as the WPIL goes. I don't see any threat to Fort Cherry or Clareton. They're going to have to eliminate each other because they're going to play at some point, maybe in the WPIL final. Guilfoyle and Wilmington, and then if Wilmington can get through Port Allegheny, who appears to be pretty good again, I don't know how these teams are simply reloading. And we're forgetting about Westinghouse, who's 3-1.
Yeah,
I don't know how they're doing it either because their best players down in Florida. So these teams are just figuring out ways to win games and. Success manifests success. And, I mean, Port Allegheny losing, a 10,000-yard kid to graduation, and they're right back in. They're 4-0 right now.
I do believe he is still back.
He is, yeah, you're correct.
But almost the entire O-line, I believe, has graduated. He is literally carrying that team on his back. 30 points a game. It sounds like a great basketball stat. That's what he averaged last year.
It's insane. But Single A is going to be a lot of fun still down the stretch. But nothing earth-shattering. I think maybe the St. Joe's Prep thing's a little crazy, and people still think that they're the team that's going to make it to the state finals once they start getting these Catholic League games under their belt. I don't know. I have to see it. I credit them for what they do because they will play anybody, anywhere, anytime. They want to be these national programs. They want to be on ESPN. They want to play these top games. But I just think that this is the year that somebody else sneaks up. I think we're probably going to get a rematch between LaSalle and Pitt Central for the state title still. That would be my pick.
And that would be absolutely phenomenal if that ends up happening. And I think that will be the question too: is what teams are going to be able to make that big run back, and who's going to be the Union, the Cinderella that nobody sees coming. And you get one of those every year that you're completely not expecting whatsoever. So shout out to all the great teams, and most of them, like you said, are getting into their conference play, which makes it's going to be tougher for some teams. Harrisburg, go take a nap for a month and a half, and we'll see you in the playoffs. So you never know what's going to happen. Well, we do know what's going to happen. It's time to go around the county. A quick listen in. We have some students from across the county that are giving us some school updates on some of the the sports that we aren't able to broadcast as much. The golf, the cross country, volleyball. We're going to get a couple volleyball matches coming up in the next couple of weeks, and the cross country championships coming up soon as well. But again, we invite all students out there. If you're interested, talk to your journalism teachers. Send us a message on social media. We'd love to hear you coming up with some of these recaps coming in as we go around the county. Let's send it out to Gavin Likens out there at Union.
Volleyball team defeated Western Beaver 3-1 last night. The girls are back in action tomorrow evening at home against Southside. Union football fell 9-7 against Riverside on Thursday night. Isaac Casciato had 4 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and a sack, while Gianni Millian rushed for 87 yards and scored the team's only touchdown. The Scotties will travel to Western Beaver on Friday. Union Golf faced Laurel on Monday, falling 252 to 203. Evan DiNardo led the team with a score of 40. On Tuesday, DiNardo and Landon Eckert competed in qualifiers, each shooting an 85, just 4 strokes shy of the 81 cut. The Scotties will close out their season tomorrow against Mohawk. That's all from the Scotties for now. For more coverage around the county, this is Gavin Likens of Union High School reporting for LC SportsNet.
Big thanks again to Gavin there at Union. And again, if anybody else is interested across the county to send in their weekly updates from their school, we encourage them to do so. And we were lucky enough to cover that golf sectional qualifier yesterday, Eric. We got to get you up for that one of these years. It's a very different kind of broadcast, just following along the best that we can as they go and getting a chance to talk to these young golfers. 14 who qualified. Eli Bintram led the way. How about an eagle on 18 to finish with a 4 under par 68 to end the round? He was the only player under par amongst the, I think it was officially 42, 43 that teed off there from Sylvan Heights. Yeah, he had an incredible round to say the very least. I want to give a shout out though to Tyler Holsinger and to Bobby Fadden, both with birdie putts on 18. They needed to hit the birdie putt to qualify, and they both knocked down the putt.
Yeah, Fadden's teammates there going nuts with him at the end was pretty cool to watch.
Even better, it wasn't his teammates. Those are who he was playing with from other schools. Even better.
Yeah, golf's the ultimate sportsman's type game. I mean, the competition's great, but it's all in good fun and respect, and that was a nice putt. Yeah,
they'll be down at Burrell, all these qualifiers next week for the first round of WPIAL Championship. So shout out Eli Bintram, Jackson Rosansky, Jordan Keller, Aspen Tanner, Rocco Baiuti, Noah Gabriel, Cam O'Lear, Gino Biondi, Jack Kyler, Talon Swanson, Bobby Fadden, Landon Schmid, Nick Garzinski, and Tyler Holsinger, the 14 who qualified from the Section 5, which is essentially the Tri-County North here in terms of golf qualifications. Also want to give a big shout-out. Mohawk Volleyball haven't made playoffs in a while, but, man, they had a huge win last night, a 5-set thriller against Shenango, giving the Cats their first loss of the season. So right now, Mohawk and Shenango atop the section standings in volleyball. We expected, I think, as it has been, Shenango and Neshannock kind of battling for it. Mohawk kind of coming out of nowhere, but they're taking control early, Eric.
There's actually talk that there's going to be a college volleyball video game developed.
I love it.
If that doesn't tell you how rapidly this sport's growing, I don't know what does. We know Limon loves it.
Yeah.
I mean, God knows he calls enough of it, but yeah, it's a fun sport to watch. It's fast growing. It's competitive. It's as good as it gets in the state. And we've got two of the best college programs in the state. Patrick Ewing was actually at the women's volleyball match at Penn State tonight.
It's Penn State tonight,
so
yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
Right.
I don't know why. I guess his daughter must play for Pitt. I don't know what the connection there is, but he was at the game. I know a friend of mine ran into him there, so at the match. But it's just evident by the fact that we have these showcases now for college.
Mm-hmm.
It's becoming such a primetime sport. And what's nice about it is it's also giving schools that might not have. There's the I call them, quote, the revenue programs, which you go to college, it's football, it's basketball, it's sports like that. Some programs, athletic programs that don't have the powerful revenue, quote unquote, sports like football, giving these student athletes an opportunity to participate in something else and excel at it.
Yeah, and two points. What you just said there about the non-revenue sports, NIL deals, and people, former players or alumni trying to donate. The hoops you have to go through to make sure that the money you're goes to the correct program. If you just put your name on a check towards the athletic department, it's all going to get funneled into the big money sport. You have to specifically put in writing on the check and in a separate letter saying this money is to go to volleyball and only volleyball, girls soccer and only girls soccer, whatever it may be. And that is a problem in and of itself, because basically they find a way to funnel it away from those programs. Unfortunately, they're going to do it because in the end, it's now a business first and you need to get the money. But I digress. It's just a terrible way that has to go about, although I am excited that athletes can be getting money. You just want them to be getting the money that should be going to each individual program the correct way. The other thing I want to mention with girls volleyball, I always get asked when people hear that I do broadcasting, they always ask, what's your favorite sport to call? I love baseball because that's always been my first love. Football is always fun games, but my favorite sport to call is volleyball. There is no sport that has more momentum swings consistently back and forth, one point to a next, than a volleyball match. So I think people are surprised to hear that. I'm surprised to say it still, but it's been the same way for over a decade for me.
Don't know enough about it. I've never called it. I've only ever covered it a couple times, and I let the kids tell the story when I covered it. So it was you give me the quotes, I'll write it up.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we'll get you out for one and let you experience it again here one of these days. I got to thank Sam Hall. He was a volleyball dad, a volleyball coach who I did a bunch of games with. I'm still learning more and more about a sport. You can never stop learning. Remember that, kids. You'll never stop learning if you're doing things the right way. We hope we're doing things the right way. We got to take one quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll preview the upcoming games here for Friday night. 8 of them across the county. Back in a moment. It's Beyond the Scoreboard here at LC SportsNet, powered by LCAP.
Your hip, your knee, your shoulder, whatever has been holding you back, UPMC Orthopedic Care is where you'll find experts to help you get back to a better quality of life. UPMC is pioneering minimally invasive surgeries, and we offer personalized treatment plans and same-day surgery to get you home and moving sooner. It's your ankle, your elbow, your hand, and it's your move. Visit upmc.com/ortho to learn how UPMC can help.
Like in sports, it takes a great team to protect you, your family, and your business. MVP Insurance is that team. From home and auto to life and commercial insurance, you can count on us for coverage that adapts to your needs.
We're committed to excellence for our clients' experience and in serving our community.
It's a winning combination.
MVP Insurance. Don't get left on the sidelines. Log on to mvpins.com or call today to get your free quote.
Contractors, the Department of Healthy Homes needs you. From small to large residential projects, you can help families live safer and healthier with the quality work you do. It's rewarding in more ways than one. Call LCAP's Department of Healthy Homes today.
Eric, on Friday night, we get to do something very unique. We're going to go around the county while not moving at all. We're going to do a Red Zone broadcast on Friday night, live from the Crane Room Grill. Big thanks to everyone at the Crane Room. They're going to let us set up there. We're going to have all 8 county games, probably, 6 or 7 more as well from other games across Western PA. And We're basically going to watch football with you guys all night. We're going to flip back and forth throughout the games. Again, focusing on the county first, but also some big matchups in WPIL country. Big thanks to a lot of the local stations, Trib Live, High School Sports Network, Elwood City Sports, many different schools' huddle pages, all permitting us to have us tap in essentially to their live streams to help showcase their student athletes. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be the most hectic 3 hours of your life on a Friday evening, but we're going to have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it, and we are going to keep an eye on some stuff that's outside the county. There's some pretty big matchups. We'll be watching that Aliquippa game for sure, and South Allegheny and South Park is another one that I'm really, really curious about.
What is that, 2 versus 3 right now?
That is, and South Allegheny, I think, was just ranked in the state top 10 this week, too, by Penn Live. So I think that's going to be a really, really – that game could go a long way to maybe – determining who a favorite in 2A is. A lot of people think it's South Allegheny now anyway, and South Park might have something to say about that down the stretch. Obviously, these are two teams that maybe one of our teams like Mohawk might see somewhere down the line. So we're going to keep an eye on a lot of it and let you know what's going on and tap into a couple things as the night goes.
Let's take a look at the games we will have coverage of on Friday night. We'll start in Class 1A. As of now, the game is on. We haven't heard anything different. Rochester has gotten healthy enough that they will be able to field a team on Friday night as they travel up to Laurel. This is a game that Laurel obviously should win. They should be in control. What is it you want to see most from the Spartans in this game, Eric?
Defense. I think their defense has to fire again and just continue to get pressure on the quarterback, continue to force turnovers, take the game over early on, make it easy for your offense. They were so good a couple weeks ago at Riverside with the field position game. They weren't able to establish that against Canavan. Obviously, Canavan just sort of did whatever they wanted to in that contest. So I want to see this defense come back, and I want to see them come back in a big way and possibly post a shutout and let this offense, if it's a short field, if it's an early night, so be it, but just get back on track. That's what this game's all about for them.
Tim Continenza and Lee Moan on the call there from Laurie Heights Stadium. Might as well be Laurie Heights Stadium. We always love going there. Thanks again to Specialty Cookies sponsoring our Shawsey Toss.
There's only one other place I would want to eat out on a Friday night, and we will be there. So you can't go wrong with either one of them. They luck out and get to go to the stadium. We luck out and get to go to the restaurant.
Yeah, it's actually funny. When I told Eric I'm not sending you to Laurel, he got a little got a little angry with me. And then I told him we were going to be going to the Crane Room. He said, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. We'll make that work. The other game going on in Lawrence County in Class 1A is Neshannock hosting Northgate. It is homecoming there in Lancerville. Neshannock, I don't want to say the bye week is a good thing because you want to be playing, but I think a little banged up, maybe get a little healthier as a result. And, now you just got to make sure you shake off the rust right away against an athletic Northgate team. I want to see defense being the word here as well. Northgate can put up points. Can Neshannock turn the ship around because they've given up a few too many?
They can put up points, but I mean, they were flattened by Shenango last week, and it was a running game that did it. It's going to be a different style of running game that Neshannock will throw at them. It's a faster running game. It's a more versatile running game. It's not just this, load into Salvo who was pounding these guys early in that contest. And I think that Northgate obviously is going to see maybe more out of the quarterback spot too, because we know Gino can let it rip. This I worry a little bit about Neshannock just because of a week off. You kind of want to keep playing. They seem like they were kind of rounding into form a little bit, and then that gets derailed because they couldn't have a game last week. So you hope they come out, they start fast, they don't keep their they don't take their foot off the pedal, and let's see if they do the same thing that Shenango did. Maybe it's an easy night for Gino. Maybe they pound the football and they can win this thing going away.
Yeah, hopefully a heavy dose of Aiken and Edworthy there for the Neshannock Lancer running game. The other game in Class 1A, Shenango traveling down to Hookstown to take on Southside. A early game for first place in the conference, both teams at 1-0. The Cats and the Rams, Southside, we know what they do. They're very similar to Wilmington, ground pound. You got to play, real tough defense. And again, third straight game I'm going to talk about it. I think Shenango will put points up. Will they be able to get enough possessions? Because you got to be able to slow down that triple option offense.
Yeah, and they're going to have to get something out of McConnell at quarterback this week. They're going to rely on him to do something. I do expect them to try to run the football like they did against Northgate last week. This is an interesting game because Shenango's got its 2 wins against teams that maybe aren't, Mohawk's struggling right now and Northgate hasn't won a game. Well, Southside has 3 wins against teams that are combined 0-12. Right. So who right now is in a better position? I might lean Shenango on that because McConnell has, a win under his belt on the road. Their running game rounded into form last week. They got the big special teams play last week before the half. Their defense was great last week. The momentum, I think, right now is teetering towards them a little bit. So we'll see if they can pull it off on the road. But this game is about figuring out who is ready to take that next step, because I don't think Southside feels comfortable with what they've proved against an 0-12 schedule. And I don't think Shenango is quite satisfied with where they are yet because, hey, they didn't really get pushed around last week. They dominated the game against Mohawk. They're going to be in for a test. I think Jimmy Graham wants to see what his team has in terms of toughness. And this is going to be the first step they take if they're going to win, more games. You got to win the one that's in front of you, and it's going to be a tough one for them to do that.
7 o'clock start in Hookstown. We'll have, again, coverage of that as we go around the county on our Red Zone broadcast, and you can watch it on the Southside Huddle page as well. As we jump to Class 2A, Elwood City hosting Freedom. The Wolverines, after that last minute, 9 seconds remaining touchdown. Again, I'm just most impressed. They've done it both ways. They've lost one as a heartbreaker late, and now they won one here late. Got to avoid the hangover because Freedom's a team that is sneakily looking good. They mercy ruled an undefeated New Brighton team. Now, New Brighton didn't have the greatest opponents to start the year either, but they were undefeated, and Freedom took it to them.
Right, and their other 2 wins are against Summit and Rochester, though. So, again, I sort of lean on that Southside point that we just made about testing themselves against competition. Elwood City, definitely a better schedule so far. Mohawk, and I think their defense is really rounded into form. I mean, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks last week against Mohawk. They got 18 tackles for loss this season. They got 7 sacks for season. They got 5 picks this season. Their defense was good last year and didn't get enough credit because everybody focused on Elijah Palmer McCain and the offense and, what they were doing on that side of the ball. I think their defense is what is going to win some games for them. This is a big one for them. They, we sort of figured, again, said it last week, that they were going to be on the seesaw. Like some weeks it's going to look really good. Some weeks it's going to look really bad. And this is now a week where they got to look really good. And it's going to start defensively for them. If they can continue playing the way they are on that side of the football, they're winning this game on Friday, and they're going to win a few more too. This team is really trending in the right direction, despite having to replace a lot of those pieces. They're trending towards the playoffs. They're trending towards getting probably a home playoff game themselves, which is remarkable considering all the things they lost.
Yeah, did not see that as a probability, going into the start of this season. But I'm glad you mentioned the defense because Declan O'Brien off to a great start again this year. He was our MVP of the game on Friday night. The numbers weren't gaudy. He only had 8 tackles, but I swear we called his name 20-plus times defensively because even if he didn't get a tackle, he was right there either disrupting a play in the backfield or being part of a gang tackle at the end of a play. He was all over the field defensively. Cam Mills had the scoop and score to start the game, and then the interception again late in the game from Dom DiNucci. Oh, I got to give Drake Davis a shout-out, too. He forced the fumble. He had a couple of sacks. That defense all around just playing really, really solid football. And Bendo break, they gave up, I think it was just shy of 300 yards. Didn't matter. They got the win.
But I think they're doing it with the stats, too. Like, there's bend but don't break. Like, Union bent but didn't break last week, but they didn't get the sacks and the interceptions and, the tackles for loss and things like that. Elwood's racking those numbers up. That's the thing. Like, they're doing it because they're racking the numbers up. So I really have been impressed with what this team has been able to put together here the first month of the season and thought, hey, maybe if things shake out their way. Now, they're also one of the teams that has it a little bit easier at the end of the schedule, too. So, again, they might be on a bit of a streak here, and if they do that, they're going to get a top seed in a playoff game at home.
They're averaging a fumble recovery, an interception, and a sack each game.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Yeah, great call by you there on that. We'll hit the call from Thad and Brad from Elwood City Sports. Again, we'll be cutting in and out of that one on our Red Zone broadcast as well. We'll have video coverage only of Mohawk against Beaver Falls at Geneva College as Mohawk, again, trying to right the ship. They won the first game, impressive. We've gone through it enough. This is a very winnable game. Beaver Falls has yet to win a game. Got to go take care of business on the road.
Let's talk a little bit about defense for the Warriors, too, because last week they did have 5 tackles. They did have 3 sacks. They did have a pick. So, again, good numbers for them. Last year through 4 games, though, 20 tackles for loss, 12 sacks, and 4 picks. This year it's 11-4-2. So the numbers are getting better, but a lot of them came last week against Elwood City. So that's a good sign for them. It's a good sign that Lucas Stratton had the 20 carries last week. He's proven that he can maybe be now the step in for his brother and be a big cog in the offense. I get a little concerned with the quarterback position only because Bobby Fadden was barely over 50% last week. He's only thrown 2 touchdowns. I know that they're having him, he's more of a dual threat. They got to get the passing game in sync, though. I think they really, him and Joey Neal have to have a bust-out game. I'm really looking to see if they can have a bust-out game. And if Fadden can basically put the team on his right arm and go win it, and it's going to be tough. But this Mohawk team, this starts a stretch. Now, they got Western Beaver left, who's really good.
Right.
And Western Beaver is now state-ranked as well. And their defense has been fantastic. We'll talk about them in a second. But everything else the rest of the way for Mohawk is winnable. So this is a team that has to put this together and build off of last week. And again, we said at the top of the show, Tim McCutcheon's around them all week. The coaches are around them all week. They see how these kids are reacting in school. They see how these kids are reacting when they watch film. They see how these kids react in practice. They've got to know something we don't, because if they're saying that they're playing with a lot of confidence and there's not really this like lackadaisical or like woe is me type attitude with this team, that's a good sign going forward. They must feel pretty good about where they are and what they're about to accomplish.
Yeah, well, and again, I think it all goes back to the fact that you have lost a big cog in your offense. It's going to take some time to get back into the swing of things, and you're progressing in the right direction. Would you like to see it a little more quickly? Yes. Would you like to see a couple of W's in there? Yeah, absolutely. But here's where it matters the most. Yeah, you gave up one against Elwood City. It's in the rearview mirror. Now you got to keep playing forward and play your next game come Friday night.
If this was last year and Stratton got hurt, they still had Sam List. So
Right.
that's a big bonus for them last year. They don't have the depth this year. That's one of the concerning things about this team is they don't have the depth. Now, I still also want to see the linebacking core come to life. I still want to see the edge come to life defensively for them too. I mean, we know that their secondary is going to be good. Fadden will pick off passes here and there. And they'll be a very serviceable secondary, but I need to see those two areas continue to fire. I sense this team is trending in the right direction. I really do. Like, I honestly believe that they're trending in the right direction, and they've got a portion of the schedule which they can do that and take time to do it, because the back end of it, again, it's my top storyline. The back end of some of these teams' schedule and the front end of them was loaded. The back end isn't. They're in a very, very good situation. They can even still pick off Western Beaver. You don't know what this team's going to be in a couple weeks. They could be playing their best football of the season and completely light up Western Beaver. We don't know. Maybe they win out. I don't know. But they feel good about where they're at right now, so everybody else should too.
That is, again, at Geneva College, that game on Friday night. All Beaver Falls home games played there.
Excellent facility.
Yeah. And
love that place.
That is great, and big thanks to all to them allowing us to come down there as well for that competition on Friday night. You mentioned Western Beaver, Golden Beavers, Friday Night Football. That's also new, first year at Needballa Stadium, where Coach Kim Needballa goes to the field where his father was the 31-year head coach, field named after him. The Union's got their work cut out for him again. I keep wanting to see, improvement each and every week. They've gotten more and more with the offense each week. It's opening up. Yeah, with a new quarterback and so many freshmen out there on the field, you knew it was kind of going to be a limited playbook early. You saw it last game. They opened it up a little bit more over the course of the game. You just want to see that continue from one week to the next.
You do, and you got to figure out a way to hold a team that's scoring 37 a game, almost 38 a game in check. And it's surprising that this team has not missed Javian Peel at all. I mean, Amari Marshall and Wyatt Sparbane have been great running the football. They're a powerful 1-2 punch. Completely different style of team from a season ago. They were throw last year. This year it's run. So it's a lot different of a look, but they're playing really good defense, only giving up 41 points a game. Union has had trouble scoring, so what do? You got to try to play the same game plan you had against Riverside last week. It's got to be low scoring. You got to make possessions count early in the game. You got to get them off the field. You can't break early in the game. And it's about extending this game as long as they can. If they can, again, stretch it to halftime, maybe down a score, maybe within a couple of points, they can get to the end of the third quarter, maybe down a possession, get to the fourth quarter, put themselves in a position to win. But it's going to have to be the grinded out style. Look, they're better suited to do it now than they were 2 weeks ago because of how they played last week. That Western Beaver defense is really good.
Yeah. And you mentioned Wyatt Sparbane. I mean, we saw him last year didn't run it as much when he needed to. He was a force to bring down.
Problem.
And man, is that line a load too. So it's going to be a tough battle. But again, you just are looking for improvement from one week to the next.
I feel a lot better about them going into this game than I would have, say, like 4 weeks ago.
Oh, absolutely. Even before the Riverside game, immediately before, seeing that Riverside game and seeing them be able to compete for a full 48 minutes, see if they can do the same thing. And again, it's got to be tough to keep the confidence up when the record says 0-3, but there are losses and there are winning losses. And, especially that Washington game, I think there were a lot of positives that took out of it. Even this Riverside game, it's a tough pill to swallow. The way that they lost down the stretch, they thought that the field goal should have been a few yards further back. It should have been a few yards back. It probably should have been in the end a win for Union. They couldn't do enough to get it back down there. In the end, though, you can take a lot from it. It's how does the team respond in film when you're talking about, look at all the things we did well. We did well. This is one mistake to fix. This is one mistake to fix. We do that. It's a completely different game.
And on top of that, I think they're in a better position in 2A than they were in single A, because single A, there'd be no room to move.
Well, that's part of the reason why they elected to move up to 2A this year, Eric.
So they're still in the hunt right now. Now, it's about staying in the hunt. That's the key. So they're going to have to pick off some wins here, but they're far, far better position than what they would have been if they were still single A. They'd be out of it right now if they were single A.
Knock Newcastle, the final non-conference game for the Canes, traveling down to Saxonburg to take on the Knock Knights. This was a great game last year. Knock, though, has lost a lot of pieces. Their quarterback, both the quarterbacks they used last year are both gone here. Knock has struggled. They've improved, kind of similar to a Union situation where they've done better the last couple of weeks. Lost a heartbreaker a couple of weeks ago. I want to see, can Newcastle make it 4 out of 5 defensively? Because 3 shutouts in the first 4 games. I know opposition hasn't been the greatest, especially the last 2 with York and Highlands. However, you can't deny the numbers that they're putting up on defense and especially special teams. They're getting turnovers, they're getting punts, they're making plays happen.
Yeah, 85 yards of offense combined the last 2 weeks given up by the Newcastle defense. Knox only scored 36 points in 4 games. Newcastle is running the ball very well right now, 208.5 the last 2. So this just adds up to a absolute whitewash. This Newcastle team, I don't know how I'm going to feel about them going in against Aliquippa next week. We'll have to digest this week first, but if they do what they should do, and that is just go out there and blow the doors off this Knock team, we'll see what happens next week. But you have to feel good right now about this defense. You haven't put too much on Marino Graham. First game's the first game. They needed him to drive down the field. He showed his capabilities when he took the team down the field in the second half against Penn Hills, and he got that touchdown that put the game away, essentially. But the tempo, the style that this team wanted to play was really, the precedent was set in that game because their defense is what won them that game. So it's been, that the whole way. And then get what you can out of your freshman. Don't put too much on his plate. Give him a little bit more each week. Run the football. Use your playmakers. They've got the right tools. They really do have the right tools. This team is going to win. I think this team is going to win 2 of the 3 of their toughest games. Wow. I'll say that right now. I don't know that one of them is next week. I kind of want to see Aliquippa this week, what they do. And, Avonworth just crushed them. But this is a different Aliquippa team. So, the time might be right. And
it's a beatable Aliquippa team for sure.
It's a mortal team. They just had this, invincibility about them the previous, 5 or 6 years. That's not there right now. And I think they're trying really hard to grab it, but they just can't seem to get their hands on it right now. I think they win 2 of those 3 games. I really do. And if they do that, if they win Friday, win 2 of those, and then win the final 2 games, home playoff game.
Yeah.
Top seed. Not the top seed, but top seed. Yeah, one of the top seeds and a home playoff game.
I think the only classification that is deeper than 1A might be Class 4A, and there's only 8 teams that are even going to make it into the dance. So you could be seeing 8 defeating 1 in the first round is not out of the question for sure.
It's going to be very balanced across the board, yep.
Finally, Wilmington traveling out to Ohio, 3rd straight long road trip, and this is the shortest of them, just over an hour to get to Grand Valley, Ohio, for the Greyhounds. Business as usual. Take the trip. If you do things right, you are on the field for less time than you're on the bus.
And, Grand Valley, 67 points last week. They gave up, I think, 55 the week before and lost. But Wilmington, 359 on the ground. They're averaging almost 8 yards a carry. They've lost this is the best stat that I've seen all season. They've only lost 26 yards rushing in their game so far. That is ridiculous.
So that means you're falling for, I mean, that's the triple option wing T offense. That's what it's supposed to be. You're gaining 2 or 3 yards at minimum on every play.
68 of the 72 first downs are via the ground game. They've run 100. Here's the stat. They run 195 offensive plays and 187 are rushing. I wonder what they're going to do on Friday.
I would love to see a play action pass on the first play of the game now that you said that.
That would be something. That would be something. Their bottom line is they're showing up, chewing bubblegum, and taking care of business. And they're just going to line up. They're going to run their offense. They're going to get off the field. They're going to control the ball for 32 minutes and go home.
Shout out to Chase Mitchelltree. He went over 2,000 career rushing yards in the game last week as well. He's got 8 touchdowns this year. Rowan Miller with 4. The Kettering brothers each with 2 touchdowns. So yeah, it's the diversity, and I think that's also going to be key. You know, get out there, get your yards, get some fresh faces in there, and everybody stay fresh for Farrell coming up here in a week.
They have this weird ability to take the wing T and make it so diversified that I don't know. I mean, Cumberland Valley used to do the same thing, but they were more of such a just power-oriented style of team. Southern Columbia really evolved their offense. They were true wing T for the longest time, and then they really evolved their offense with the Henry Heinowski crew in the early 2000s, and started throwing the ball a little bit more when Danny Latour was there, and Ted Heitzman was there the year after that. Then they, of course, I mean, you know, when they have Julian Fleming, they're throwing the ball tons more.
But it was still mainly a wing T.
Yeah, it was still a wing T team. So I mean, they really like diversified it in a different way. But you know, Wilmington, you watch this team and it's like, all right, we know what's coming, and then here's 359 more yards. Coach Fillion just does such an awesome job with, you know, keeping things like a little, for a wing T team, keeping things a little fresh, and they're all gas, no breaks right now. They're far and away one of the best single A teams in the state.
I remember asking Coach Fillion, I can't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago now, but I was going back through the stats for a couple of games leading up to the one we were about to broadcast, and in those 3 games, his top 3 running backs had like, in the first game, it was like 11, 11, and 12 carries. The next week, it was like 12, 10, and 9 carries. The following week, it was 10, 10, 15 carries. Like it was like all basically dead even between those top 3. I said, is that by design specifically? Like, are you trying to do that, or is it just happening? And he said, wait, really? That's what it was? Okay, I'm ecstatic. Like, we're not trying to do it. We're playing the course of the game. And if it works out that way, that means that we're probably doing something right. They're not keeping track of it. But when you have the hot hand, Mitchelltree in the playoffs last year, all of a sudden you're getting one guy who's got 20, 25 carries, but you've been more balanced all year. You got fewer carries on the legs all year. Then you are more rested to be able to have those big games. So I figured the math guy for sure was keeping track. He said, no, absolutely not.
Nobody was happier to separate from Southern Columbia because they had to run into them twice when they were winning all those state titles and stuff too. That program really should have multiple state titles, but I mean, that Southern team was just too damn good with too many players, and they ran into them twice.
And ran into them the first time though too, and along the route, and then defeated the was it West Catholic? I think it was, out of Philadelphia, and one of the greatest championship high school football games you'll probably ever see back in 2008. We'll definitely have to go back and talk about that one more on a future episode. There's your games. All 8 of them will be floating in and out on our Around the County Red Zone style podcast on Friday night. We'll get that rolling just before 7 o'clock, but so we can get out to all the field work for all of the kickoffs, all the games going on Friday. You mentioned the Aliquippa Penn Hills game is one that we're going to be keeping an eye on. Give me a couple others real quick that we're probably going to be focusing in and out of.
South Allegheny and South Park, definitely Aliquippa. Mm-hmm. That's more so for a Newcastle standpoint, just to watch them, see what they're all about, how they bounce back. You had asked me earlier today, and I actually have to go back and look at the list, but
Trib has a bunch of good games on.
They are loaded this Friday night.
Oh, Montour Mars was a good one.
Avonworth and Hopewell, South Park, South Allegheny, Montour Mars, and Penn Hills Quippa. We'll watch them all.
Yep, I'm right there with you. We'll hopefully you're joining in and enjoying that with us as well. Just got a breaking news confirmed. Game is officially on for Laurel Rochester. They're good to go. Good to hear. Appreciate getting that final message in for sure. Next week, well, we'll figure out how we're going to do it, Eric, because next Wednesday night is the Lawrence County Band Festival. So we will have a a broadcast. Not sure if it'll be maybe earlier on Wednesday or we might have a pre-recorded or we might do it on Tuesday. Not sure yet. So stay tuned on that for our first preview show coming up after the midway point of the season. Make sure you stay tuned for the band festival on Wednesday next week as well. We'll also have volleyball coming up on Thursday and a couple of big games coming up next Friday as well. But this Friday, the Red Zone broadcast, and we'll have exclusive coverage as well of the Laurel game against Bishop Canevin and, of course, the Mohawk game traveling to Beaver Falls as well. Thank you again for tuning in live or archived, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. For Eric Thomas, I'm James Dotson. So long, stay tuned as we hit the midway point of the 2025 football season at LC SportsNet, powered by LCAP. Your voice for Lawrence County sports.
The gold ball headed home to Newcastle.